hit Wisconsin.
Hahn expanding her lead in the Democratic primary for Wisconsin governor. A new poll for 407 Democratic primary voters was conducted between July 22nd and July 27th. It shows Hahn with 38% support. That's more than double former Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes, who's at 16%. Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley, who re-entered the race about 2 weeks ago, has 7%. Meanwhile, Joel Brennan and Kelda Roys each have 2%. More than a third of Democratic primary voters, 34%, are still undecided.
Welcome to Wisconsin, which is the biggest test yet of the Democratic Socialist brand. Here, that's Francesca Hong leading in the limited polling, but the only Democrat who actually beats the presumed nominee on the Republican side is Mandela Barnes. So this is a classic electability contest, and the question really is, can somebody win in a moderate battleground state like this in the way that Zoran Mondami won in New York? Here's what voters told me.
Yes.
It should give the Republican a better chance. We should have nothing to do with Democrat socialists whatsoever. The country has no room for it, no anti-capitalism. We just don't believe in that. That's not America. I think a couple of the Democrat candidates who don't poll well are probably stronger because they're more midline.
I'm still watching the Democratic primary side of things. I was a big Mandela Barnes supporter, the last time around. Not for governor, but Hong has really caught my attention. I mean, she seems to have the momentum right now and the actual bluegrass groundswell support going on. So that's very interesting to me. I think that a lot of people are looking around now, especially younger people, and saying, well, if this is capitalism, it isn't working. So if it's not working for me, maybe they're going to be open to something else.
I'm voting for Francesca Hong. I mean, it seems like everything now that's been happening in the country for, since 2016, and in the state, what they're trying to do around the governor's office isn't working. I don't want to pay taxes so some rich person can get a tax break, and some person I walk by in the street is starving and can't feed their kids in the morning when they go to school. That's what I would like, and that's what Francesca Hong talks about.
13 days until Election Day here in Wisconsin.
And today we have a new snapshot into the race for governor just hours.
The first guy was so funny. The first guy is so funny because it's not representative. The polls show that it's not representative. That attitude is just, doesn't share that attitude with fucking 40+% of the base.
After our exclusive primetime Democratic debate, political director Matt Smith is back to break down those new numbers. Matt.
All right, guys, it is all in the new Marquette poll and a widening lead for Francesca Hong, the Democratic Socialist in this Democratic primary. Let's bring in Charles Franklin, the director of the Marquette Law School poll. You are a busy man, 2 weeks, 2 polls. What is the revelation in this brand new poll out today?
I think the big headline is that Hong has expanded her lead from where it was a week ago to 38% now from 26% last week. And if you put in the people who lean to a candidate, that goes up to 46%. She's up across the board in every demographic.
So as we look at this, yes, there are 34% undecided, but this is a 22-point lead now between the #1 candidate and the #2 candidate. The other three, David Crowley, Joel Brennan, Kelda Roys, all in single digits. We're less than 2 weeks out. Can any of these candidates catch up to, or at least what we're seeing from this snapshot?
What I think is lacking on the folks that aren't for Hong is that they've not consolidated around anyone. Mandela Barnes is consistently in second place, but fairly distant second, and Crowley in third place, again, a good ways behind Barnes. So if there was a chance for the other candidates to sort of get a new competitor, I haven't seen that happening in these data. We just don't see anybody making a big move up except for Francesca Hong.
You went into the poll because of all the chaos in this primary. The Lieutenant Governor, Sarah Rodriguez, getting out, David Crowley getting back in with the endorsement of Governor Tony Evers. And you asked people about it.
It's so funny. I mean, Francesca is obviously a phenomenal campaigner. Regardless, she has a great platform. it's been captivating to the people of Wisconsin. Regardless, she's been the front runner from the jump pretty much. Even with the limited amount of polling that was available early on. A big part of that is the ground game, which is also part of the reason why I think this will be even more successful in red states as well, because there's not enough infra in these areas. There's not like, I guess, a well-oiled, well-established machine. I mean, Wisconsin Democrats are a well-oiled, well-established machine, ironically enough, and yet they've still flailed around. So that's also part of the reason why I think like this kind of candidacy could be successful in red states too. But we obviously have to establish a stronger foothold in purple states and swing states. Wisconsin being one. I don't even consider Michigan to be a swing state, but Michigan I see as only becoming a swing state due to the establishment incompetence. However, Wisconsin will no longer be a 50-50 state after this election. It will be a blue state with a trifecta. And you will see. Mark my fucking words. That's number one. Number two. Even like what's been really funny is the establishment has also, for some strange reason, been caught flat-footed here. Even if they were more organized from the start, it would still like Francesca Hong would still pose a significant threat to their interests and would probably still win. But the very fact that they were also just like utterly incompetent, making these sorts of moves day in, day out, that only boosted Francesca Hong for some strange reason, not consolidating the field early on, consolidating the field for a candidate whose campaign collapsed publicly, then bringing back Crowley, who was already unpopular enough that he had to drop out initially with a Evers endorsement. It's amazing. Like, even if they were better organized, Francesca Hong would still win, but they've been a disaster as well.
I guess people are starting to pay attention because they had heard about this endorsement, right?
62% said they'd heard about it, and 36% said it made them more likely to vote for Crowley. But that didn't mean they all voted for Crowley. Yeah. Crowley is only at 7%, not 36% say more likely. The key here is that Democrats like Tony Evers a whole lot, 89% job approval. But that doesn't mean they're going to leave the candidate they were supporting to go in the direction he's suggesting.
And we're going to talk about the debate in a second, but first this undecided number, this 34%. There isn't a guarantee that these people are going to go out and vote and back a candidate, is there, at this point?
Less than 2 weeks to go and you're still undecided. That's a pretty good suggestion that maybe you're just not into this race and you'll sit it out.
Yeah.
When we ask people if you had to choose, what would you do? That number goes down to 14% undecided or unwilling to lean. So there's still some room for fluid movement there, but it's pretty small. And when you do discount for who won't show up, it's probably certainly smaller than 34, down in that 14 range or even less.
This poll was in the field before last night's debate. I'm curious your takeaways from what you saw the candidates on the stage. This was the only time all.
Do I prefer MELENCHON or Zohran Mamdani? MELENCHON.
You hear it.
It's not even a question. Jean-Luc Mélenchon is probably my favorite politician in the West, even more than Claudia Sheinbaum. As far as whose outward policies are closer to mine, he has no power, which is why he's radical. There's no world where if he were to get power that he wouldn't follow through on his agenda. Also, okay, Zoran has limited power. I wish I could convince the French to vote for him in the second round. Zoran was way more radical, but he moderated. Zoran has never in his entire career been as radical as Jean-Luc Mélenchon. I just really like Mélenchon. Chatter has no idea what the political scene is in France. Yeah, I know for a fact that they see him as too old, too crazy, too angry. They think he's pro-Russia. It's like a lot of the shit that people say about me, they say about him in France. And it sucks. I wish the French were a little bit more organized and a little bit more radical. But it's clear that the only opportunity that Mélenchon has is if he can consolidate power on the left flank. And the entirety of the left flank, with the exception of LFI, basically exists to ratfuck guys like Mélenchon. Mbappe will never endorse him. That's never going to happen. He has great policies, but he's not great as a politician. He's an old cranky asshole, kind of like Bernie, but that's not novel to them like it was here. He is far, far more aggressive than Bernie Sanders is too. But yeah, the French don't like that. Yes, the French like a more softer touch, I guess. I don't fucking understand it. But yeah, he's not like Bernie being old and cranky for the most part shows consistency, shows integrity, but Mélenchon being crankier than Bernie, let's be real, and far more radical in his positions than Bernie, have only led to people thinking he's too angry, too old, too cranky to fucking consolidate power around him. Wemby wouldn't endorse Mélenchon either. Guys, what are you talking about? All of these like superstar athletes, like I love Wemby, but let's be real. He like Wemby also is like, oh, I don't like the far left. Nothing to the too far left, nothing to the too far right. You know, we have to find something different. They don't like Macron. Here, okay, I will tell you. The normie French attitude, demonstrated by Wemby, demonstrated by a lot of young progressives, is Mélenchon is far too angry, far too cranky, far too left. And of course, the nationalists are out of the question. They're insane. They're racist, la raciste. But they also don't like Macron. So they say the left is too far left, the right is too far right, and everything in the center is shit. That's what I've heard from French normies. Why is Mélenchon more radical than Sanders and Zoran? I think Jean-Luc Mélenchon would pull out of NATO. Yeah. He is the only French leader that would reinstate French sovereignty. And yes, it wouldn't be the first time for France, obviously. But I think he would be the only French leader that has any viability that's even remotely serious that would reinstate French sovereignty. All of the other French leadership is they're puppets to America.
every election night. The socialists are on the rise. And what does that mean for the leftist takeover of the Democratic Party? And to some extent, that's true. There have been big wins by progressives in Democratic primaries all across the country. But the subject of my new Substack is about how I think you should think about it a little differently. And actually, the story in the primaries since the 2024 election is, to me, that the moderates are collapsing and the establishment wing can't get itself together. I mean, think about the candidates they put up in these elections. Andrew Cuomo in New York City, Janet Mills in Maine, whatever's going on in the Wisconsin governor's primary right now. All of these created a void that progressives have been able to step in, but you can't tell one story without the other. Check out my new Substack on this topic at The Midterms Actually. We hear it every election night. The socialists are on the rise. And what does that mean?
Okay, Ested. You clocked it? Yeah. The National Party and its establishment have never been more out of step with its voters. It's all because of Israel, Medicare for all, and data centers. They won't keep underestimating us after this primary cycle. We must be extra disciplined going into 2028. And the irony, of course, is they see the defeats that they're experiencing, and instead of trying to, and this is good for us, this is advantageous for us, the Democratic Party's center of power falling asleep at the wheel after years and years of incompetence is good for us. This will be the easiest, in some ways, this will be the easiest cycle to make as much impact as possible. The next cycle, either we will have to be completely ready to dominate, or they will have far stronger defenses. Because for decades, they've been able to eat off the they've been able to eat good off of the bullshit ass like pivot to the center electability arguments. And that caused them, that basically made them never really try to put forward strong candidates, never really forced them to try and change what they're doing. What would stronger defenses look like? Better candidates in general. Anyway, my point is this. In some ways, this is going to be the easiest cycle for us, for the insurgency. But in other ways, it is the most difficult one because we don't have the numbers yet. But slowly but surely, we've been able to build a strong movement that is mobilizing. First, it's Zohran Mamdani. Then it's the DSA slate. Then it's Chris Rabb. Then the DSA slate in New York City. And these candidates that win keep feeding into one another, right? Chris Rabb is all over the country. Adam Hamawi is all over the country. Then it's Melach Kiros. And, with Melach Kiros, you had Claire Valdez and Daria Liza also phone banking for Melach. Now, we're sending all of those winners to every other market. This is how we establish a organized front. The excitement carries on to other races. You know what I mean? So think about it this way. With 2028, we will have a far stronger set of talent. A far stronger set of talent that we can mobilize in the direction of newcomers. That's what's big. That is what we are, that's what we're looking to build here, okay? However, the establishment will inevitably have to recognize their failures and will do their very best to try to design better talent. They will adopt our talking points with no real intent to follow through on that agenda. You see a version of this already. We've seen a version of this in 2020 with Bernie Sanders. Kamala Harris was the pro-Medicare for all candidate. I still remember, many of you might have been too young, but I still remember people coming up to me and being like, Hasan, how dare you? Kamala Harris has a more progressive track record in Senate than Bernie Sanders does. They would sincerely tell me this, like as though Kamala Harris was going to be a fucking Medicare for all advocate. And we saw a version of that last night. All of the establishment candidates were basically copy-pasting Francesca Hong's platform. First, they will oppose us and they'll say our ideals are too crazy, too radical. Then they'll recognize that those ideals are actually not radical at all. They're very popular, as a matter of fact. They're a key towards winning races. Then they will cynically adopt those ideals in the phoniest way possible in order to become a more significant threat and maybe even dupe the voters into voting for these establishment Democrats, only to maintain the same do-nothing posture. There are, of course, certain advantages in this for us, because as it stands currently, while the candidates that I've propped up are in favor of an arms embargo to Israel, this is far from the commonplace position amongst the Israel-critical Democratic flank. So the more they adopt our talking points, the more they say, oh, I say no to AIPAC. Oh, I oppose AIPAC. Oh, I oppose aid to Israel. Yesterday they said they oppose AIPAC funds. Today they say, I'm opposing aid to Israel. Tomorrow they might even recognize the Israeli occupation and apartheid. Okay? The more they push, the more we push to arrive at a closer position to justice and equity. You understand? J Street comes out and says, oh, you know, the position to cut aid to Israel is now appropriate. Now we're allowing our candidates to actually push for that. Okay, that's not enough. Do you recognize the Israeli apartheid? Do you recognize the Israeli occupation? Do you want to end and abolish that apartheid, that occupation? Are you willing to commit to an arms embargo? Are you willing to commit to sanctions to hold Israel accountable? Are you willing to hold Israel accountable? So there's still plenty of room to grow. You understand? This is a Stevens event. This is the Lansing Regional Chamber inside of the Insurance Capital boardroom. And the first question she's asked is about outside expenditures. First question for Representative Stevens at this Lansing Chamber event is about super PACs and corporation spending in the U.S. Senate race. Oh my Lord, she's so fucked. This is a conversation she does not want to be having with this audience. It's not just a Stevens event, it's a corporate Stevens event. Yes. This is the last room where this kind of question is supposed to be asked of Haley Stevens. So if they're asking this shit.
You know, I am not getting self-enriched while I'm running for office. My opponent, hundreds of thousands of people voted in this race, and maybe.
Someone's got to give me a better video of this, like the C-SPAN footage, please. Someone send me the C-SPAN footage of this. I want to watch it. Clearly the RNC has it. This is impossible to understand. I wonder if you polled Americans, how many would you think the Chamber of Commerce was a part of the government? I mean, we can poll this chat and it would be 90%. Probably 90% of this chat thinks Chamber of Commerce is a part of the government. What is this? Did you see this? The tide has definitely shifted.